I'm doing well. I'm just renaming. Hi, so nice to see you.
It's so good to see you too. So we'll jump right in, love. So why don't you start off by sharing with the women listening how you found yourself on this journey?
Oh, I'm ready to revisit all of that because it's all a blessing, even the painful things. So I met my partner when I was around 30 years old, and then when I was 35, we got engaged and we were planning this big wedding on a remote Greek island, and COVID hit. And so we had to cancel the wedding. And we were like, okay, well, I guess now we'll start trying for a baby. And one thing that I do remember is that from the beginning, I was very conscious of the fact that it can be really hard, it may not work. So I know a lot of women are like, I just thought I'll blah, 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 have fun with my husband and boom, baby. I never thought that. I was always like, it can be difficult, it can go wrong, we need to take this seriously. And I'll go back to that, like where that came from, but I'm just sharing that at this stage. And so we started trying, and then about 6 months later, I got pregnant. And I was thrilled, we were very happy. I had all the symptoms, the morning sickness, all of that. And then at our 8-week ultrasound, the doctor told us that the baby basically was not doing well. Its heart rate was really slow, and it was dying basically. So she said, come back in a week, and I anticipate that the baby will have passed by then. That was a horrific week because the baby was there, it was alive, but it was dying. And I had all the symptoms of pregnancy, but just waiting for the inevitable. It was really heartbreaking. So we went back a week later, and indeed, what the doctor predicted had happened. They said there is no heartbeat. And we started making plans for the surgery, the DNC. And a couple of days later, we did the surgery. And it was intense because I've had all the hormones. I felt very pregnant, right? All the things. And yet, the baby was gone. So one thing I was grateful for, though, is I got amazing care during that DNC. And I remember every single person that, nurses, anesthesiologists, so many people come to speak to you before a surgery. Everyone said, I'm so sorry you're here. It wasn't like, oh, just another DNC. Everyone had that care. And I remember feeling like I'm in the hands of very caring people, and that meant a lot. So I was always trying to find the positive in what was going on. So then after that, I knew I needed some time to heal. So I did a lot of mind-body practices, meditation, reading books about pregnancy loss and grief. And I joined Pregnancy Loss Support Group by PSI, Postpartum Support International, which is for all the ladies listening, because unfortunately, miscarriage is a very common phenomenon. It's they are online all over the world, free. So I went to that group every week, and it helped me so much process the grief and start to find my faith again. So one thing also that we did at this point was that we adopted a puppy. And that was very healing for the soul. I had read a lot about how nurturing a pet is very healing when you're grieving the loss of a baby. But I had never had a pet. And I kept telling my fiance, I read this. And then on the 4th of July, he surprised me with a little baby puppy. Yes, it was so sweet of him. And the moment I held the puppy, I loved him, and that I mentioned that on this podcast because it gave me a lot of teachings around all these fears around, well, what if we end up adopting? What if we end up using donor eggs or, all the ways a baby can come into your life? And I was like, if I can love a non-human baby that I've never seen before, that I've never so much, the moment I held him, I loved him. Then yes, like however our journey ends up, I know I will love the baby. And that was a teaching that I got from our puppy that I would have never anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And I held on to it, and I still hold on to it, that like children come to us in so many different ways, some more traditional and some less traditional. And then a day after we adopted him, the puppy got deathly ill, and we had to run to the hospital, and the doctor said he might not make it. And I was sobbing there, and I was like, we lost the baby. Now we're going to lose this puppy. It was horrific.
Wow.
But the puppy made it. He survived. And that was another teaching that I got, that like, we didn't do anything differently, right? With the baby or the puppy. Like, we showed up, we did all the right things with all our love. The baby didn't make it, the puppy made it. It's in God's hands, divine intelligence, who knows why, but that good things can happen. We're not like cursed, or it wasn't our fault that the baby died. So already just 2 days after getting that puppy, I was getting all the lessons, and I was very grateful for that. And so the puppy survived. He started healing and becoming like his crazy, cute self that we love so much. And then just maybe like a month later, I was pregnant again. And yeah, so very quickly, my body healed, my cycle came back. The doctor was like, all good. And then just a couple of months later, I was pregnant again. We were thrilled. We were so happy. And then just a week later, I started bleeding. So we went to the doctor, and the doctor said, it's either a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy, which would have been even more dangerous. So then more tests, ultrasounds, and monitoring. A couple of days later, they said, good news, it's not an ectopic pregnancy. I mean, good news.
Right.
It's better news than if it were an ectopic pregnancy, but yeah, the baby was gone. It was another early miscarriage. That was really, really, really difficult because somehow I grieved and healed, and somehow with the first miscarriage, I went through a cycle that a lot of women had walked through before me. I felt very held by the support group and the doctors and the nurse. Like, everyone was like, these things happen, but second one is extremely unlikely. And in my mind, it was like, okay, we had one, it happens to a lot of people, but it will be fine after that. When the second one happened, I was rocked off my, like the world made sense before and suddenly didn't make sense anymore. And that was, things started getting really challenging because I started really struggling to understand what is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, as it usually happens when there's a second miscarriage, all the tests start. Blood tests, ultrasounds, genetic tests, the partner's tests, all types of tests. And it was a bit overwhelming, but I believe in science, so I wanted to have that information. So we went through with all of that, and honestly, there was nothing they could point to. It was like, everything is normal. So just keep trying, and it will work out eventually. So that, kept trying to figure it all out. And by figure it out, I mean just process it, everything that was happening, right? So again, my body healed pretty quickly. I kept going to the group and kept doing my meditations and my yoga and everything. And we started feeling more healed, and we started trying again. And a couple of months later, I was pregnant again. And so this time, I would say I didn't have that same positive energy that, oh, it's going to work out. Quite the opposite. I was terrified. I was almost like blocked energetically. I was constantly monitoring for blood. I was really apprehensive. And I would say around the 6-7 week mark, I started spotting and bleeding a little bit, which was really disappointing and scary. And then we went to see the doctor, and he unfortunately said something that we have heard before, that I see a baby, but it's on its way out. It's the heartbeat is really slow. The baby's leaving us. And this time around, the healing took a while. I literally bled for a month. It was a slow, prolonged. My body, I guess, really loved that baby. And I've heard all types of stories. Some women have like a traumatic, horrible bleed and they end up in the emergency room. And I had the opposite experience of like bleeding slowly, like a period that lasted 4 weeks. And that was also very challenging, because it was like my body was having trouble letting go of that baby. And my mind too, I felt like I was stuck in that grief, because I still saw the manifestation of my body trying to let go. It was, it was a very challenging time. And at that point, I think I felt really, really, really broken. Like I felt that even in the groups, I couldn't find people to relate to me, because almost no one had lost 3. I felt like such an outlier, and I felt like this was like something is really, really wrong, even though all the tests said that nothing is wrong. And I was in grief, in deep grief, still doing all my practices. Thankfully, for the past several years, I've had strong daily practices that sustain me. So I'll have to say, I'm very lucky that I had that for years and years before this big crisis. So I had something to hold me, like daily meditation, regular yoga and workouts, support groups, even though I kind of felt like I didn't relate 100% anymore. At least there was somewhere to go. I wasn't all alone through this, unimaginable situation that we had suddenly found ourselves in. We saw different doctors. Obviously, at this stage, we were talking to reproductive endocrinologists. Everyone had like different thoughts and approaches. Some suggested IVF to do genetic testing of the babies, the embryos before implanting them. Maybe that was the reason. Others were like, just keep trying, and it's a numbers game. One suggested I do another surgery called hysteroscopy, where they go in the uterus to see what's going on there. So I decided to do that because it was almost the last diagnostic test that we hadn't done, because it's quite invasive. You have to go under anesthesia, and they scrape the uterus a little bit to get to see what's going on there, if there's an infection or something. But I said, okay, listen, I've been through all of this. Like, it's one more thing. I'm going to do it and get all the information. And that too was kind of inconclusive. Like, oh, maybe we saw like, maybe there is a little bit of something, but like 80% of women have it anyway. So it's like, it's not really a thing. And that's where I found myself basically at the end of that very traumatic year. All of that happened within a year. That's another thing that sometimes I have trouble wrapping my head around. Like, all of that happened within a year. So much loss and grief, and it was a really challenging time. And that's when I think I decided to join your program right around that time. Yeah. And the rest is history. Yeah.
Right. Well, so what made you, I mean, this is having been through, I mean, you really highlight something I think that more women need to hear, is that every individual situation is so different. And there is a point where we all kind of start to feel like outliers. We start to like, we kind of, with every step that we take, sometimes we end up pulling away from what we thought was going to happen, and something very different ends up unfolding. And then the question becomes, wow, what do I do now? Right? Because, you were in a support group with women that maybe had one miscarriage, possibly two, but you were entering into a world that is like 3 in a row. And like, what do you even do with that?
Mm-hmm.
So what made you want to turn to mindset, especially like this stuff? Because it's interesting that you turn to that, like, which is probably often the polar opposite of what you would typically find in a support group, just in case anyone was curious that whether or not this program is like a support group. Not quite.
It's exactly the opposite. Yes. So I had been following your podcast for many, many months, and I thought you had a unique perspective. I felt like you were yelling at me at the podcast. And then when I did your program, I think you were yelling at me for 8 weeks lovingly, though. Like, it was what I needed. And I would tell my fiance, like, Rosanne yelled at me again. But in a good way. And even in your emails, you would have like all caps, like, chew on that. When I was like not getting something and you wanted to push me to get it. So, and I thought that was very unique, because not a lot of people have the guts to do that, especially when faced with tragedies like losing multiple babies, or many of the other ladies have gone through really difficult things. And most support groups or therapists, of course, focus on like nurturing and comforting and all of that. And that is very useful. So of course I had my therapist, and the support group was very helpful, but I felt like I needed someone to yell at me lovingly and be like, tell me something different and force me to think differently. And I would hear that in your podcast, and I liked the feelings that would get caused in me listening to your podcast. Like, often I would feel pissed off at something you would say, but also hopeful. It would make me think. It would make me be like, how dare she say it? But like, oh yeah, I see her point. And I loved all those things that were happening in my brain when interacting with your content. So I thought, well, what could I get by interacting with this person live, when she can also reflect back what she's hearing from me? And I feel like I was correct in my assessment, because that's exactly what I got, including the yelling. But yeah, but I from day one I got that pushback. I needed that pushback because even and friends and family and everyone, you have one miscarriage, they're like, it's very common, it's gonna be okay. You have at 3, like no one said a word anymore. Like they couldn't even find words to say to me, right? And it's like that silence. And um I felt with you that you wouldn't be silent, you would have things to say. Yeah, so that's what attracted me to your program and your approach to things, while also continuing all the other things. So
Mm.
I continued to see my therapist. I continued to go to the group. I continued with my meditation and my Buddhist studies and all of that. So I never thought that, like, oh, now I'm abandoning everything else. I'm just going to do. And I know that that's not the philosophy that you preach, because you are very eclectic and you pull from 50 different philosophical and theoretical backgrounds. And, you know, I love that. I thought it would be a great addition, and I think it really was.
Well, so what was it that you started to notice in yourself? Because you're exactly right. This idea that it's either or, is it's lack and scarcity. It's about it's about intelligently using different tools for different reasons, right? Like when you want to be nurtured, you're going to go one place. When you want to meditate, you're going to go to another. But when you want a righteous butt kicking to get you thinking again and to snap out of the pattern, that's where you come. So what did you
Yeah.
start noticing in you?
Yeah, I'm looking at my phone because I took some notes, because I want to be specific so that the ladies listening could, hopefully hear something that inspires, or maybe,
Very thoughtful of you.
yeah, provoke something. Because that's how I felt when listening to all the ladies that came before me. So basically, I started your program, and the realization started hitting me very quickly. The first big one was looking very critically at the messages I got through childhood and young adulthood growing up in Greece. So I'm originally from Greece, and I moved to the States 10 years ago by myself, like, hello world, I arrived. So everyone is back there. And thinking of the women in my family, they're amazing. Like, the women in my family are incredible. They're all either like MD or PhD or nursing degrees or architects. And also shout out to the men. They're also very accomplished family men, like care for their families, and since a very young age, I started noticing that um, the women would be truly overburdened with their very demanding careers. Again, doctors, nurses, lawyers, and the childcare and home care and all of that. And since a very young age, I started asking those questions, like, Auntie, you're a doctor, uncle is a doctor. Why do you always cook and do the dishes and you look exhausted? Or, Mommy, why, do you have to do X and Y? That doesn't seem right. And then, like, try explaining to a 5-year-old the nature of the patriarchy and gender roles. And this kept escalating, basically, because I kept asking, not getting questions. And then as I started growing older, I started proclaiming and declaring what I would do when I grow up. Well, when I grow up, I'll be, a judge, a lawyer, a politician, but also my husband will 50-50. He will clean, I will cook, this and that, and just telling everyone how, like, I'm going to do it differently. And now you can imagine that everyone dealing with their own challenges, let's put it that way, around the system. And then you have a little kid acting like they are going to change the system. So they started saying, that's not going to work. Oh, you think that's so easy? Well, if you do that, things, and the statement started getting worse and worse. Your husband will leave you. So and so did it, and her husband cheated on her. So and so did it, and her kids are drug addicts. Because if the mother isn't at home, the kids, blah, blah, blah. Then I would say, oh, I love, the German chancellor is a woman. Well, she never had children. So any successful woman I would point to, it was like, well, but she never had children. Which again, maybe in 2 generations prior, because like if someone in the 80s was already at the top of the industry, they would have been born, I don't know, in the 30s. So maybe they did have to sacrifice having a family to make it to the top, but that doesn't mean that in 2000 I would have to do the same. But that's how they were talking to me. This kept escalating as the years went by. And I remember I was 14 years old and I was telling my best friend's mom my opinions again, how like I will split everything with my husband, I will have this career and that, and we will raise the kids. And she goes, well, I pity your future children because you will be a terrible mother. And I had forgotten that until we lost the babies, basically. I started then putting it together that I have been told so many times that I'll be a terrible mother, that my partner will leave me, so I'll be like unworthy of love. And also I was constantly told, you're trying to act like a man. You're trying to be a man. That's not a woman's role. You're trying to be a man. And so I internalized that I'm not a real woman, basically, right? I'm not, and hence I'm losing babies because a man cannot carry a baby to term. And when I realized all that, and we were doing coaching through emails, like I remember I was like, I'm taking full advantage of this course. Like I'll squeeze everything out of Rosanne. I was emailing you, I was like, this is what's happened. And so I had already, with therapy and all of that, I had understood a little bit of how, like, since a young age, I was told that either I'm not going to have children, or if I have them, my husband will leave me, or the children will be drug addicts, or I'll be a terrible mother because I'm trying to be a man and I don't know my place. And so I remember you asked me, tell me why you don't believe that. Tell me why you don't live by those rules. And that was a new thing for me because I had already identified all the crap that I had digested, but you were like, no, tell me now what you believe. And I was called upon to make a different decision and say, everything you guys said, I don't live by that. And I started researching, like trying to figure out how I can make the different rules. And you know what really, really helped, Rosanne? It's crazy. I started watching animal shows and looking at those like lionesses and mama bears. Oh my God. Like these ladies, they're not sitting there nicely waiting for Mr. Male Lion to bring, like they do the hunting. They are like with the blood in there, like, I love that. I might sound a little weird saying it now, but I was constantly told that like being a real woman is be nice and this. And I always was like in careers very out there. I used to be a lawyer. Then I was a journalist out in the streets covering protests. Then I hosted online shows. I was always out there. Like I want to be in the world. I want to have a strong message. I want to make a difference. And be in society, help society, right? Like a human needs to be in the world. I wasn't like, I want to buy 5 mansions. And if someone wants to buy 5 mansions, great for them as well. But and so when I saw those lionesses and the mama bears, and they weren't sitting pretty, like they were fierce, and they had so many babies. So I was like, wait a second. If God, the universe, divine intelligence, like didn't agree with me, wanted to be out there in the world doing stuff, then Gus, God, universe, source, higher power would have made all those animals infertile because they are all doing it out there. Like they are fierce. And I'm like, you know what? I think that God, universe, source is very much aligned with my vision for my life. I think that these rules were made by men, not by divine intelligence. And I believe that the rules of God and nature cannot be broken, but the rules of man can be broken when they're totalitarian and absurd and oppressive. And all these things that I was told were lies, basically. Were not supported by the facts of the natural world. So I was like, you know what? I'm choosing to forgive everyone because they were doing the best they could. And I truly understand that no one sought out to hold me down. They were just reiterating what they saw. They had seen lack and scarcity, and they were telling me that. They were trying to protect me in misguided ways. But that's like not aligned with the rules of nature. So I wrote down, I am the lioness in the jungle. And I did, and I remember I was calling my friends and I'm like the lioness. And I was like New York City subway, before that I would think of like, oh, look at me, maybe I'm walking up the subway stairs too quickly. And that's why I lost the babies. Like all these, not crazy, like all these misguided thoughts that come from people telling you that like, you're not a good woman. And that's why this happened to you. And then I remember like running up the stairs and being like, if that lioness can be like hunting antelopes and then she has 5 cubs, like I can run up these subway stairs, no problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's really because you I could see what was happening for you. It was very clear for me that beginning to question some of those paradigms and beginning to disengage from them and make a decision. I mean, you said so many wonderful, I'm like, I definitely got into that head of hers, because of the mama bear energy and making a decision, the power of choice and things like that. I mean, what else did you see?
So I'm looking at my notes and guess to keep it focused and not ramble. So once I was like, the lioness became my spirit animal, immediately the energy changed. Like it was lifted. It was, I was still sad for what happened, but that idea that I'm punished because I'm not a good woman was lifted. I was like, and I, in fact, even watched animal shows where animals lost babies and they grieved for their babies, right? And then they got up and kept walking. And it's like, it's just the circle of life. Like it's nobody's fault. These things happen. We grieve them and we continue. So then the next thing that was very powerful was, again, in one of our sessions, I had my hand up and I'm like, okay, so ladies, as you know, I'm here because I've had 3 miscarriages. And you go, cut that crap right now. Like, what? You said, that's why you're here? Like, seriously, that's why you're here? Like, so you said, tell me why you're here. Tell me why you're here. And I said, because I'm growing our family. Yes. And you go, you're a woman on a journey. And I said, yeah, I'm a woman on a journey to meet her children. Yes. And you said, you're wearing your miscarriages as an identity. So cut that out now. And I was like, okay, this is done. Like, I heard you. It was another time of like, you yelled at me, but I heard you. You wanted me to stop identifying so much with the traumas that had happened to me and identify with my vision. And I was on a journey, and like Odysseus in the Odyssey, right? He went through thousands of things over 10 years, but he made it home. Like and we say his journey to Ithaca. We don't say when he got like beaten by the cyclope and this and that. I love ancient Greek mythology, so bear with me. But like we tell his story with what his vision was. And I'm like, that's me. I am on a journey to meet my babies. And these are some obstacles that I encountered, but those obstacles are not who I am. And I wrote that down too, and it became a mantra. And I remember I would tell my friends the learnings so as to make them more imprinted, because I believe in the power of repetition. And once we say things more and more, they become more real. So I would tell them that I'm the lioness in the jungle, and also I'm on the journey to meet my children. And the energy kept shifting. And then about at the 4-week mark, halfway through your program, I got pregnant again. And I sent you that photo, and I felt, so again, I'm very grateful that this happened during the program, because I knew that for me, handling the positive pregnancy test would be half of the whole thing. Because of everything I had been through, I know most women, they get that positive test, they're thrilled. I was like, what's going to happen next? And I knew that I needed you to keep yelling at me and help me, think differently. So I was so glad that we had another 4 weeks to keep getting yelled at lovingly. And then you would say, remember when you would be like, I yelled at the pregnant lady again. Oh, well.
Yeah. I remember that very clearly. Well, so, and you bring up an interesting point, because a lot of people think, oh, well, once I'm pregnant, all of my problems are going to go away and I don't need any of this anymore. And it's like, especially if you've had loss, but I think this is true in either case. You're just getting started. This is why this work is so critically important, because you have a choice. You can spend the next 40 weeks in abject terror, or you can do something more intelligent.
Yes. And that's what we worked on for the next 4 weeks. And I remember that, like, a lot of the concepts, I needed another 30 whatever weeks to keep understanding them, versus like the lioness and all of that, they hit immediately and it was lifted. Versus all of those, I remember, like, I felt that I was frustrating you because you kept telling me the same things, and which I guess is part of, like, it's part of the process. I was asking the same questions. I was reading all the books, doing the daily practices, and but I did a few of the tools you gave me, I just used them for the entire pregnancy. The first one was the 2 yards. I don't know if you remember that. When I would get so scared that, something would happen to this pregnancy, you said that there are 2 yards. And one of them is like gorgeously manicured with a pool, and Jason Momoa, who you love, is fanning me, and my fiance is making me virgin margaritas, and there's music, and then there's a fence, and there's another yard. It's like unkept, like weeds, beer cans, and chicken running around. And you were like, where will you choose to go? Hang out. Like, we cannot predict the future. There are no guarantees. But today, where do you choose to hang out? Rosanne, I cannot tell you how many times I use the yard throughout the pregnancy to deal with the reemerging of the grief, the anxiety, the fear that something bad could happen. And I was like, and also knowing that, like, the yard also signifies how I'll show up to my fiance, how I'll show up for the life inside me, right? Because we all hang out in that yard. Because if I'm in the wrong yard, then I talk to you like you're sitting there with me, and nothing good will come out of that. So the yard was very, very helpful. And I practiced that. And then a couple of weeks later, we went for that ultrasound. And I remember the physician's assistant, she was doing the ultrasound and she goes, "Oh, honey, you're having two." And I was, what? Yeah. And so she's like, "Okay, let me measure, let me measure." So she started measuring heart. Yeah, baby A looks great. Baby B looks great. Heartbeat's great. You're having two. They're like, "Oh, congratulations, parents! You're overachievers. You got to." I still get goosebumps. Like after everything we had been through, that we would be blessed that way by all divine and earthly forms of power and blessing. I was beyond grateful. And I remember I emailed you. Wow, yeah. It was
Twins, girl, twins. I mean, think
yeah.
about that. Not only did you get pregnant in the program, you find out that you're having twins. What did this do for your faith?
It was almost like what you had told me a few weeks prior, that what happened to you wasn't your identity. Because look, like all these things happen, like all these terrible things and these blessings, they all happened to me. It's like the divine intelligence is there, and we don't always know in the moment why certain things happen. We just need to keep on studying, practicing, talking, praying, and hopefully we will understand and become wiser. So that's kind of how I try to understand faith, that faith works through action, that I keep showing up and more shall be revealed. And that was revealed, and I was so, so grateful. And more fears kept arising, right? Because the grief didn't just magically disappear. And I kept coming to you and asking more questions. I'm seeing here all the tools that you gave me. Oh, talking to the baby. So when I would get very stressed out, you said, start talking and be like, "Hi, babies. I'm your mommy. This is your puppy. I'm cooking kale. I'm making a smoothie." Just like, and that was almost like a meditation in the here and now, to keep my mind from going down dangerous pathways that won't, there's no way to predict. Like life has no guarantees, but here and now there is a blessing. So I kept telling myself, I am a good steward of the blessings. That was my mantra throughout the pregnancy. So like when I made decisions like no caffeine or like working out consistently, I didn't want to say, because I'm afraid of losing the babies. I kept saying, because I choose to be a good steward of the double blessing. And I try to kind of, I think it conveys that respect and awe without the fear part. Being a good steward of a treasure, right?
I love the way you say that. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of you. Like, you clearly took the lessons, and to be a good steward, I mean, because that's how deep this got into you, Ellie. Like, I'm so happy. Like, that makes me, I'm just so thrilled because what that says is that you understand you're present enough. Instead of going into the past, instead of future tripping, you're present enough to say, I am going to be a good steward of this blessing. Rather than spitting in the eye of your blessing, you're present with it here and receiving it for what it is now. I mean, that's a massive lesson that I really hope the women listening to this take on. I mean, you've been dropping bombs this whole time, of really powerful wisdom. But I hope that is one especially that y'all take on.
It's I think it aligns with something you say in your book about there's really no finish line where like you're safe, you're done, you won. Because it's like, well, I want to get pregnant. Okay, you get the pregnancy test, but you want to get to the viability scan. Then you want to do the nuchal translucency to make sure the baby doesn't have genetic abnormality. Then it's the 20-week anatomy scan. Then it's, will it be preterm or not? Then it's SIDS. Then they're teenagers and they're driving and you're scared something might happen, right? It's like, it's life. It's life. And
it is life.
I so understood that in this pregnancy, because people would say things to me like, oh, you're out of the first trimester, now you're safe. And I never liked that approach, because safety is not a milestone or a date, or it has to be something cultivated internally, because there's no such thing as external safety.
Amen.
We walk outside and a bus hits us, like, knock on wood, like, life is life. And so I try to keep saying that. And in a twin pregnancy, I've done maybe like 50 ultrasounds. They constantly monitor, and at the 20-week anatomy scan, one of the twins, they saw something in her heart, and they were like, you need to go do a fetal echocardiogram to make sure the baby's heart is okay. And that was hard. And I remember I cried first, like I went a little bit into my my darkness, but then I pulled out my notes from the program, because every week I was there taking notes on my laptop, and pulled out exercises you gave us and did them again. I spent like an hour or so working things from the program. And I remember that night I wasn't like, oh yeah, amazing. I was still worried, but I found some balance with it that was not accessible to me 6 months prior. And then thankfully and gratefully, we went to the appointment the next day, and they did the heart scan, and they were like, oh, this is like an unusual finding, but it's fully normal and benign, and her heart is fine. But it was another thing that shows us, right, that like exactly what she said, the pregnancy test is just the beginning, like all the things that can show up, and we need to somehow deal with them. And I practiced the yard that night too. I'm like, okay, if tonight is the last night with my babies, where do I want to spend it? Like, do I want to spend it in the ugly yard or in the nice yard? Let's hang out in the nice yard. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible, Ellie, because having the presence of mind to be able to, in that moment, say, where do I want to spend this time? If instead of cowering in fear and running away from what's available to you in the present moment, you stood your ground. That's like hardcore mama bear. I mean, I love that. And it's so funny because so much of it, this is basically what I'm talking about in my third book. That's, I'm like, that can't come out fast enough, but it's, really covering some of the concepts that you're talking about here. And so, what else would you want the ladies listening to know? I mean, especially about this, because I'm sure that there were some aspects of your relationship that you saw evolve and mature in this process as well.
Yeah, I would say I also wrote down, like, because I knew you were going to ask me, what do you want to tell the ladies? And my biggest message is that there's nothing wrong with you. Because if we take what happened to us and turn it into an identity, which is the mistake I made, and then you yelled at me, then that affects, to your point, how you show up in your relationship. how you show up in the world, how you walk up the subway stairs, as I was saying, like anything you do, you turn it into a mistake as like, oh, maybe this is why this is happening to me, when there's nothing wrong with any of us. This is just something, these things are things that happen. And if we let go of that identity, then the question is, what do we do next? And I think that's where the work starts. And I, again, believe in the daily practices. Like, you gave me the books, I was reading them every day, writing every day, gratitude lists, affirmations. There's an app where you record yourself saying affirmations to yourself, and then you listen to yourself. Yeah, because there's research apparently that if it's your own voice, somehow it contacts your subconscious. All the practices daily through the pregnancy. It wasn't like, oh, I got pregnant, and I ride off into the sunset, because my life is now, it's like every day keeping the mind where it should be, the body where it should be, and the soul, all of that. I joined another support group, which was about pregnancy after loss. So I wanted to be around other pregnant women who had experienced loss, because I felt they also understood that dichotomy, and they were walking the same path of, dealing with the past traumas arising while also welcoming new lives. So, and again, I went back to the things that the notes from the class, I kept listening to the podcast. Like, I felt like the message I want to give is like, there's no finish line where you're like, you're done. Now you can stop the work and just chill and enjoy being happy forever. Like, I don't think that will ever happen.
I wish it was that simple, but when you change the way that you think, which you clearly did, the world around you starts to change, and you have a perspective that I think equips you with access to a level of resilience that most people don't even consider. Because I'm blown away by you sharing what you shared, Ellie, because like, to be able to say, if this is the last night with my baby, how do I want to spend it? I'm like, that's like next level. That's next level shit right there. Because, now look at you. How many weeks are you along now?
36.
36
Yes.
with twins. I got to see that bump. Your bump.
It's a big bump
from here. Oh my gosh, look at that gorgeous bump. Oh, Ellie.
It's a big bump, yeah.
I gotta tell you, and I love that you've shared so openly and so generously here, but this is why I yell. You're an example of why I am as direct as I am in a very loving way, because sometimes we get stuck in our story so deeply that unless we have somebody grab us by the shoulders, virtually, and lovingly shake you and say, that's not your story. What do you choose? How do you choose to look at yourself? How do you choose to look at this journey? You have a choice, because you, Ellie, in particular, are, and all of my ladies have this in common. You seized the opportunity to make this journey a blessing, not a curse. And look at the way you get to live today because you did that. Like,
thank you for saying that.
But it's true. It's true. And this is very difficult for people to understand sometimes. A lot of people are super addicted to their victimhood. They don't want to get out of it because they get an identity. And you wanted better for your family. You wanted better for your children, because just think about what you're going to be able to teach your kids.
That's the hope. That's my aspiration. And I have to say,
No
all
hope.
these,
You make the
right.
decision. See, I'm yelling at the pregnant lady again.
Yes,
You
yeah.
make the
The
decision
decision.
that these kids are a miracle. They are miracles. So your responsibility now is to share with them what you learned. But I know that you know that. But sometimes, again, see, still doing it.
You catch things. Yeah, I love that. I love that about you.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you
True.
slide, girl, just because you're 36 weeks pregnant. Are you kidding me right now? This is the time to be yelling. Well,
I love that.
so Ellie, I'm just so honored that you came on and shared this. I mean, I know there are going to be so many ladies that remember you, and they're going to be like, I'm so happy. I mean, it's funny because there's so many women pregnant now. Like, it's just everyone's gonna be like, I remember her, so I'm just super grateful that you came on and are so generously sharing. And I know that the women listening are sending you so much love. I mean, going from recurrent miscarriage to twins and a full-term healthy pregnancy, 2 healthy babies. I mean, this stands for the proposition truly that if the desire in your heart to be a mom, it's there because it was meant for you, and it can be there in abundance. So thank you for standing for that proposition, Ellie. It is truly one of the great just honors in my career to be able to work with women like you, to see you implement what you learn, and to be sharing that with the next generation. So thank you for that. Thank you for being on.
It's my great pleasure. And thank you, Rosanne, for having the courage to yell at women who have been through a lot, because it takes courage, right? Because you yell from compassion, right? But a lot of people are like, I've been through so much and she's yelling at me, right? But now I see why all these movies with the sports coaches, right, that yell at their athletes. I never got that because I was never really, I did ballet, like I wasn't really the sports person. I was like, why does Hollywood love this? Now I get it, because it takes courage for someone to be in your face in that way, but not because they derive pleasure from yelling at you, but because they see a higher potential for you, and they want you to achieve that. So I really appreciate that you did that for me.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I couldn't have said it better, Mama. So go, we're sending you all just so much love. Hug your partner for me. I know that this is going to be amazing. Keep me posted, and I can't wait to see those baby pictures.
I'll make sure to send them. Bye.
Thank you.
Love this episode of the Fearlessly Fertile podcast? Subscribe now and leave an awesome review. Remember, the desire in your heart to be a mom is there because it was meant for you. When it comes to your dreams, keep saying hell yes.